When we think about outsourcing technology, things like software development and testing, application maintenance and support services, and even technology infrastructure, we generally tend to think about faraway places like India, Eastern Europe, or the Philippines, or what we refer to as offshoring. And the term "nobody ever got fired for buying IBM" has seemingly been replaced by "nobody ever gets fired for offshoring to India." However, in the past few years, and especially in the past 6 months, with the global pandemic crisis, offshoring is being reevaluated as the business risk is appreciating, service delivery is inconsistent, and according to some of our clients, the promised cost savings are not being realized. As such, many technology service buyers are considering repatriating some or all of their critical services either back in-house or to North American-based outsourcing providers, the latter being what we call onshoring or nearshoring. As we covered earlier in the segment, Canada has become a powerhouse in technology and is quite a compelling option for US companies for both technology services delivery captives as well as third-party nearshoring services. According to Robert Scott, a partner with PwC Canada, and I quote, "We, Canada, do not have the same volume of people as India, but Canada is generally competing at the leading edge of technology where close interaction between business users and developers is critical." And I'm just going to repeat that, where close interaction between business users and developers is critical. So let's find out what makes Canada a great nearshoring alternative for technology and software services outsourcing. Nearshoring is an important and strategic global service delivery option from both a risk and delivery perspective. So what are some of the strategic reasons to move your technology work to a nearshore model? First, the tailwinds to nearshore have never been greater, led by what looks like a long-term impact of this COVID pandemic crisis, which has forced global service providers to move to a work-from-home model. In the more popular third world outsourcing regions, the work-from-home model is not as easy to administer as it is in highly connected and stable countries like the US and Canada. And we predict more geodiversification in global service delivery models, or in other words, shifting some work away from higher risk regions. Cheap labor is no longer the top goal for operations leaders, and is quickly being extinguished by the demand for more innovation and automation. Canada is a leader in technology innovation, and as we previously discussed, Canada is the birthplace of the Java programming language and leads the world in advances in artificial intelligence. US companies with development and QA teams in high-cost regions like California and New York can still achieve 50% cost savings for software engineers by moving work to Canada. Other strategic benefits, like proximity of remote teams, allow teams to collaborate together in the daylight hours and similar time zones. Working in similar time zones makes the software development cycle more predictable. You can't put a price on this benefit, but trust me, I've worked with offshore delivery models and I've led offshore teams, and there truly is a loss of efficiency. In the past few years, we've seen a growing signs of offshore fatigue. And it's been QAC's observation with many of our new clients, especially in the last 18 months, that are repatriating or bringing back software quality assurance functions and perhaps seeking to diversify their supplier geo footprint. You can see the graph on the left illustrates the most recent decline in the political risk index for India. What's interesting is that this report was published prior to the COVID crisis. We suspect that if this political risk was reassessed today, it would be substantially worse. Here are some of the top issues that we consistently hear from our clients who have outsourced offshore. There are lag times, days lost, lack of access, executive time and cost traveling to India, those dreaded 10 p.m. conference calls, as New York City is 9.5 hours and California 12.5 hours behind Bengaluru, India. Culture and language gaps do dilute team productivity. Offshore annual attrition rates are 20 to 25% versus 10% or less in Canada. Offshore labor models depend on freshers or new college grads with inexperience and high turnover. And finally, not achieving the business case cost savings that were promised. Here are some of the key factors and advantages for nearshoring IT services to Canada. There's currently about a 30% exchange rate benefit for US buyers. And as I pointed out earlier, Canada's technology workforce has a very low turnover. And for software engineers, costs can be 50% lower than the expensive cities in the US. Travel is basically a domestic flight from anywhere in the US. Flight times from LAX to Toronto average 4.5 hours, less than an hour between New York and Toronto. The major US and Canadian cities are all within a 3-hour time zone band. We speak the same language, and in general, there's very little cultural gap. And both the US and Canada enjoy consistent technology infrastructure in terms of connectivity, cloud, and security. This next slide highlights the average cost differential and quality of talent for software engineers for most of the major North American markets. And I apologize that it may be slightly difficult to read. All of these costs are measured in US dollars. And let me just point out that this is just base salary and does not include employee benefits costs, which are estimated to be 66% higher in the US versus Canada. Here, I'm highlighting specifically the labor cost differential for software engineers in Toronto versus Southern California markets like Los Angeles and Orange County, which easily exceeds 40%. And again, keep in mind, this is base salary cost only, not including benefits. And as Chelsea highlighted earlier, the average benefit load in Canada is about 1/3 of that of the US. Although the chart positions Toronto and Vancouver as very high on the quality axis, the study rated quality of talent using just 30 schools in North America. 25 of those are in the US. And in my opinion, this by default penalizes the diversity of foreign talent in places like Toronto and those who are graduating from top schools elsewhere in the world. Nevertheless, it's clear that in terms of both cost and quality of talent, Toronto provides a high-value alternative for provisioning or locating technology services. Before I wrap up, I'd like to make a few comments on the impact of the global pandemic on global technology services. COVID has impacted global delivery and perhaps is helping magnify the benefits of a nearshore IT delivery option. In the past 6 months, the COVID pandemic has exposed enormous delivery risk in third world locations. Political and infrastructure risk in third world outsourcing locations has increased exponentially. Government intervention with various lockdown policies is escalating and may be inconsistent from region to region, even within the same country. Sounds familiar, right? Remote working outside of the established tech centers is subject to a country's quality and consistency of infrastructure, including things like electricity, as well as access to connectivity. Security issues are increasing, and outsourcing clients are cautious about giving access to their systems and data outside of the firewalls of tech city infrastructure, making work from home much more challenging in places like India. In the future, we're likely to see more companies move to work from home models, but with increased online collaboration. And let me just make this point. This online collaboration from a multitude of endpoints will require secure and predictable infrastructure from home to home instead of office to office. And finally, I'll leave you with a few parting thoughts.